Welcome, dear listener. As you drift into dreamland, imagine a galaxy far, far away where destiny and choices weave together. In this soothing tale of Anakin Skywalker, explore the gentle dance between light and darkness. Let the calming whispers of this story guide you to a peaceful sleep, where dreams of distant stars and adventures await. In a galaxy far, far away, a tale unfolds. Not just of distant stars and epic battles, but of the moral storms that swirl within every heart. This is the story of Anakin Skywalker, a soul torn between light and shadow, where the line between good and evil dances across the edge of a blade. Within us all lies the spark of potential, to be a beacon of goodness or to plunge into the depths of darkness. Life, with its many trials and tribulations, tests us with each choice we make. And as the winds of fate blow, one force begins to whisper louder, gradually taking hold and steering our path. For one as powerful as Anakin, destiny looms large, casting long shadows over his journey. Born with a natural gift, his power draws the eyes of those who wish to wield it for their own ends. Whether in the name of good or evil, the weight of this expectation presses down on him, urging him to use his abilities for what he believes to be just. Yet therein lies the heart of the struggle. No one sees themselves as the villain in their own story. Every action feels righteous, driven by the desire to protect loved ones or to serve a greater cause. But it is only when one is pushed to the very brink, when the world demands everything from them, that their true nature is revealed. In those moments, the ends they seek begin to eclipse the means, and the shadows of doubt creep in. We all imagine how we might act when the pressure mounts, believing we know ourselves, but the truth is that none of us can be certain until the moment arrives. The body reacts, fight, flight, or freeze. And in that instant, the choice is made, often without our conscious mind even realizing it. Deep within, we all harbor an instinct, an intuition we trust, guiding us according to our own moral compass. But where does this intuition come from? Is it a part of us from the beginning, or has it been shaped by the world around us? And if our instincts drive our actions, are we truly the ones making the choice? Or has the path been decided for us all along? And now, we are left to grapple with these choices, trying to make sense of them in the light of our own understanding. We like to think of ourselves as good, yet perhaps we simply haven't encountered the right temptation to lead us astray, leaving us as mere products of our circumstances. So let us delve deeper into the tragic descent of Anakin Skywalker, to understand how he fell to the dark side and why, in his own mind, his fall was justified. When we first meet Anakin, he is a bright, kind-hearted boy, untouched by the darkness that would one day consume him. Raised without a father, his only guiding light was his mother. who instilled in him a belief that the greatest flaw in the universe is that people do not help one another. This belief shapes Anakin into a generous soul, one who opens his heart and his home to strangers, offering aid without expecting anything in return. Yet, behind his kindness lies a harsh reality. Anakin and his mother were sold into slavery, a fate that he refuses to let define him. When asked if he is a slave, he declares with a quiet but firm resolve, "I'm a person, and my name is Anakin." This defiance, though noble, hints at the deeper wounds that fester within him. Anakin may reject the label of slave, but he cannot escape the scars left by years of servitude, where his will was bent to serve others' desires. This experience plants a seed in his heart, a seed that will grow into a fierce determination never to be controlled again. At first, this manifests in a simple desire to take risks, to push the boundaries of his abilities and explore the limits of his freedom. But as Anakin grows, so too does his fear of being constrained, of losing the autonomy he values so dearly. In many ways, Anakin's life mirrors our own struggles with the invisible chains that bind us. We often feel trapped by our physical limitations, but just as binding are the narratives we tell ourselves, the stories shaped by our environments and the expectations of those around us. For Anakin, these narratives are particularly powerful, as everyone in his life seems to have a plan for him, a destiny they believe he is meant to fulfill. From the Jedi Council, who see in him the potential to bring balance to the Force, to the Sith Lord, who sees an opportunity to twist that potential to serve darker purposes. Anakin is caught in a web of expectations, each strand pulling him in a different direction. And as the pressures mount, the fear of being controlled begins to warp his sense of self, blurring the line between what is right and what is necessary for his survival. This fear becomes the driving force behind Anakin's decisions, leading him down a path where the ends justify the means, and where the moral lines he once held dear begin to fade into the shadows. As we continue to explore his story, we are reminded of the delicate balance within each of us, and how easily the scales can tip when the weight of the world presses down too hard. His mother speaks of him as though his fate is etched in the stars, and Qui-Gon Jinn, the wise Jedi Master, believes Anakin to be the chosen one of prophecy, destined to bring balance to the Force. From an early age, Anakin is groomed to believe in the power of destiny, a belief that whatever is meant to happen will unfold, unstoppable by any force. This mindset, while it instills a strong sense of confidence, carries a hidden danger. It subtly absolves him of the responsibility to choose the right path. For if everything is predestined, where's the room for free will? And even if free will is but an illusion, it is an illusion worth holding on to. For without it, one risks slipping into the despair of nihilism. Yet, not everyone is convinced that Anakin's destiny is one of light. Yoda, the ancient and wise leader of the Jedi Council, senses fear within Anakin, a fear that is as natural as it is perilous. For in Yoda's teachings, fear is a seed that can sprout into darker emotions. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. This is Anakin's first true encounter with the Jedi Council, and rather than embracing his potential, they seek to contain it, to shackle the very power that sets him apart. They warn that fear is a path to the dark side, but in their rejection, they begin to weave the very fate they fear. A self-fulfilling prophecy born of their own anxieties. Yoda's trepidation towards Anakin's abilities is the first crack in the foundation of trust between the young Jedi and the Council. At this stage, Anakin is a vessel of pure potential, capable of becoming a force for good or for ill, like anyone. Qui-Gon Jinn, with his belief in the power of free will, stands as a counterpoint to the Council's deterministic views, nurturing Anakin's abilities with the hope of guiding him towards the light. But the Council's doubt casts a long shadow, one that suggests Anakin's fate is already sealed, that he is bound to tread a dark path. In these conflicting messages, the idea of destiny begins to shift in Anakin's mind. Where once he believed he was destined only for good, now the possibility of the dark side begins to loom. A mental door cracked open by the very people who sought to guide him. In this first stage of his life, Anakin is a slave who understands the value of cooperation. A boy who helps others with a pure heart, expecting nothing in return. He's a risk-taker, brimming with optimism for the future, and he sees Qui-Gon Jinn as the father figure he never had. But the death of Qui-Gon at the hands of Darth Maul changes everything. As he lies dying, Qui-Gon's final wish is for Obi-Wan Kenobi, his apprentice, to take Anakin under his wing and teach him the ways of the Force. This moment marks a turning point in Anakin's journey. A shift from the innocence of youth to the burden of responsibility and loss. The boy who once dreamed of freeing the galaxy from its chains now finds himself bound by the expectations of others, and the weight of a prophecy that seems to offer no escape. Obi-Wan, though well-intentioned, is thrust into the role of mentor not by choice, but by circumstance. He honors his master's dying wish, but the bond between him and Anakin is born not of deep affection, but of duty and obligation. As Anakin grows, this lack of a truly paternal connection will leave him vulnerable, searching for guidance and validation in places that will ultimately lead him astray. The seeds of doubt and fear begin to take root in Anakin's heart, setting the stage for the tragic fall that lies ahead. When we meet Anakin again, years have passed, and the bright-eyed boy has transformed into a confident, headstrong young man. He carries with him the belief that he is destined for greatness, a conviction that fuels his willingness to take bold risks. This unshakable faith in his own destiny also makes the constraints of the Jedi Council's rules feel like a cage, chafing against his growing sense of superiority. It is in this period of his life as he reconnects with Padme Amidala, that Anakin's human flaws begin to emerge more clearly. Anakin has harbored deep feelings for Padme since the moment he first laid eyes on her, and those feelings have only intensified over the years. When he realizes that she does not share the same intensity of emotion, that she has not been consumed by the same burdens of destiny and love, flashes of anger and frustration begin to surface. Anakin's inability to accept anything that conflicts with his desires becomes painfully evident. To him, it feels like an injustice. Much like the time when the Jedi Council rejected his potential after he had been told that he was destined for greatness. Now Padme's hesitance feels like another betrayal of fate. This growing sense of entitlement, born from the belief that his future was preordained, makes any uncertainty a source of deep pain. This inner turmoil is the natural consequence of being raised to believe that one's fate is sealed. The Jedi way, with its emphasis on selflessness and detachment, begins to lose its appeal for Anakin as it no longer aligns with his personal desires. He begins to question the very foundations of what he has been taught, and doubt starts to cloud his once clear purpose. In this second stage of his journey, Anakin is no longer the selfless boy who believed in working together for the greater good. As a Jedi apprentice, he harbors doubts about the path he is on, feeling increasingly isolated by the perception that others do not trust him. Anakin continues to take risks, but now these risks are tinged with uncertainty about the future. He is being trained as a Jedi, yet the mixed messages he receives leave him unsure of his place within the Order. Obi-Wan Kenobi, now his mentor and father figure, tries to guide him towards understanding the true essence of the Jedi way. Obi-Wan teaches that a Jedi's life is one of compassionate detachment, that true peace comes from letting life unfold naturally without trying to exert control over it. But for Anakin, who has been conditioned to believe in the power of destiny and the importance of control, these teachings feel like a direct challenge to his instincts. While Obi-Wan urges Anakin to embrace the Jedi philosophy of letting go, Chancellor Palpatine, the cunning and manipulative leader of the Republic, begins to whisper in Anakin's ear, feeding his ego and encouraging him to trust in his own instincts. Palpatine's words resonate with Anakin, who feels increasingly stifled by the Jedi strictures. To Anakin, the Jedi's insistence on detachment starts to seem hypocritical, especially when juxtaposed with their efforts to control his actions and decisions. In contrast, Palpatine's encouragement to follow his own desires feels liberating, a promise of true freedom. In this conflicting guidance, Anakin begins to see the Jedi as a force that seeks to control him, despite their claims of championing free will. Palpatine, on the other hand, appears to offer the freedom that Anakin craves, urging him to break free of the constraints that have been placed on him and to embrace his own power and desires. This internal conflict, exacerbated by the opposing influences in his life, sets Anakin on a dangerous path. The more he feels restricted by the Jedi, the more he is drawn to the promise of freedom offered by Palpatine, even as it leads him closer to the dark side. In essence, the Jedi embody the philosophy of collective well-being, prioritizing the greater good above individual desires. On the other hand, Chancellor Palpatine encourages Anakin to focus on the individual, to pursue what he wants rather than what is best for all. This contrast becomes even more pronounced when it comes to Anakin's relationship with Padme. Despite the Jedi's strict code forbidding romantic love, Anakin finds himself increasingly drawn to her, prioritizing his own feelings and desires over the Jedi's teachings. When Padme eventually kisses him, she later dismisses it as a mistake, worried about jeopardizing his future. A future that, once again, ties into the idea of Anakin's supposed destiny. But Anakin's response is telling. The thought of not being with you, I can't breathe. This potential rejection fuels his manipulative tendencies as he struggles to accept the choices of others, especially when they conflict with his own desires. Anakin's fear of losing Padme is so overwhelming that he becomes desperate, offering to do anything to keep her by his side. Her love, which should be a source of comfort, instead becomes a torment to his soul, forcing him to confront a choice that will ultimately reveal his true priorities: remain a Jedi, or be with Padme. Faced with this binary decision, where any choice guarantees a loss, Anakin's first instinct is to cheat the system, suggesting they keep their love a secret. This instinct, to preserve what he feels is right for him while avoiding other sacrifices, is natural for anyone. Yet, it highlights a critical flaw in Anakin. He is driven by self-interest rather than honor or honesty. He has a choice, but he did not choose to feel this way, and the intensity of his emotions overwhelms him. As Anakin's internal struggle deepens, Obi-Wan Kenobi, his mentor, downplays Anakin's recurring nightmares about his mother being in danger. Where Anakin senses these dreams as premonitions, Obi-Wan dismisses them as mere figments of his imagination, advising him not to dwell on them. But when the nightmares persist, and Obi-Wan isn't there to restrain him, Anakin decides he must act, feeling that he has no choice but to see his mother. "I'm sorry, I don't have a choice." His emotions are so powerful that he no longer attempts to control them, as if he believes his destiny is pulling him away from the Jedi's teachings of restraint, and into the embrace of his own instincts. Had Anakin's journey to find his mother proven Obi-Wan right? Had she been safe, and the dreams just that? Perhaps his faith in the Jedi way would have been restored. But instead, he finds her as a prisoner, and she dies in his arms. The fear that haunted Anakin from the moment he first left his mother is now tragically validated. In his mind, if only Obi-Wan had let him follow his instincts earlier, he could have saved her. This realization triggers a catastrophic surge of anger, leading Anakin to exact brutal revenge on the Tusken Raiders who had imprisoned her. In his rage, he doesn't just kill the men, he slaughters the women and children as well. In this moment, Anakin's emotions, unchecked and all-consuming, reveal how easily he can lose his sense of proportionality, valuing his mother's life above all others. Padme, in her compassion, tries to comfort him, telling him that there was nothing he could have done, that he is not all-powerful. But Anakin's response cuts to the core of his psyche. "You're not all-powerful? Well, I should be." This declaration sums up Anakin's entire psychology. He is being taught to believe in his own greatness, in his destined role as the chosen one, yet every loss, every failure to control his world, feeds into a growing frustration. He feels he should have the power to prevent the pain and suffering he's experienced, but the more he grasps for control, the more it slips through his fingers, pulling him further from the light and deeper into the darkness that will one day consume him. Someday, I will be. This defiant promise marks a pivotal moment in Anakin's journey. His instinct to control the world, to protect those he loves at any cost, grows stronger with each passing day. In Anakin's mind, it is unjust for bad things to happen to good people, especially those he cares about. The world seems out of alignment, its unpredictability a constant source of frustration. This sense of powerlessness, rooted in his past as a slave, begins to twist his perspective. The idea takes root that perhaps doing something bad might be necessary to preserve the good, to create order in a chaotic universe. Anakin's inability to handle the unpredictable nature of life, his fear of being out of control, feels like a return to the chains of his past. He no longer sees the value in democracy, which to him seems slow, tedious, and ineffective. Much like the Jedi Council, who always seem to be undermining his abilities and prioritizing the greater good over his own desires. Anakin feels that if only he had been allowed to follow his instincts, he could have achieved far more. This growing frustration with the constraints of the Jedi and the inefficacies of democratic processes leads him to favor authoritarian rule. In his mind, someone needs to take decisive action, and who better than him? Having grown up in a world where the roles of slave and master were starkly defined, Anakin now finds himself with power and is determined never to be the slave again. He wants to ensure that he is always the master, the one in control. The taste of the dark side has shown him its benefits. Even if he still clings to his love for Padme and the bonds of loyalty that tie him to Obi-Wan. Even at the cost of losing his arm. A final gesture of his lingering humanity. Now, in this third stage of his life, Anakin has risen to the rank of Jedi Knight. But this new title brings with it a sense of isolation. He believes he works better alone, convinced that only he can look out for his own interests and protect those he loves. Anakin has become self-interested, seeing himself as the only one capable of doing what needs to be done. He continues to take risks, his future growing increasingly uncertain as he drifts further from the Jedi way. Anakin no longer has a father figure to look up to. Obi-Wan, who once served as his guide and mentor, has become distant, unaware of the secrets Anakin now keeps. Anakin has become accustomed to living a double life, hiding his marriage to Padme and keeping the truth of his mother's death and his vengeful actions from everyone. But everything changes when Padme tells him that she is pregnant. The news, though joyous, also means that their private relationship will soon be exposed, further closing the door on Anakin's chances of becoming a Jedi Master. If his destiny is to achieve absolute power, he realizes he may need to find another path to attain it. Just as he was haunted by visions of his mother's death, Anakin now begins to see visions of Padme dying during childbirth. These nightmares stir up the same fear and desperation that once drove him to the dark side. Anakin is terrified of losing her, just as he lost his mother. The very thought of being unable to save Padme drives him deeper into his desire for control, for the power to change fate itself. This fear, coupled with his growing disillusionment with the Jedi and the lure of the dark side, begins to push Anakin further down a path from which there may be no return. The once hopeful boy who dreamed of bringing balance to the Force now finds himself caught in a web of his own making, where love, fear, and ambition intertwine to lead him ever closer to the darkness. Anakin's desperation deepens as he wrestles with the thought of losing Padme. He previously felt that he couldn't breathe without her, so the idea of her dying is an unbearable horror. Tragedy has struck him time and time again, and he refuses to let the love of his life become another casualty in his ever-darkening world. Yoda, sensing the storm within Anakin, advises him to let go of everything he fears to lose, urging him to sever his emotional attachments. For the combination of human emotions and the immense power of the Force is a deadly mix. But how can Anakin relinquish control when doing so might mean watching his loved ones perish? The Jedi way, which demands detachment and trust in the Force, no longer holds any practical value for him. It has only ever seemed to restrict his potential, to keep him from realizing the power he feels is his destiny. His lust for power, his need to control, and his fear of losing Padme leave him vulnerable to the manipulations of Palpatine, who has always encouraged Anakin to trust his instincts and has subtly guided him toward the dark side. Palpatine masterfully sows seeds of doubt in Anakin's mind, painting the Jedi Council as hypocrites who seek power just as much as the Sith do. Only they cloak their desires in righteousness. This moral ambiguity blurs the lines between right and wrong for Anakin, urging him to consider that perhaps the dark side can be wielded for good, just as the light can be twisted to serve evil purposes. When Palpatine tempts Anakin with the promise that the dark side holds the power to prevent Padme's death, the seeds planted in Anakin's heart begin to sprout. Faced with this temptation, Anakin is torn. He knows he should report Palpatine as a Sith, and despite everything, there is still good within him. He does the right thing initially, choosing to inform the Jedi Council of Palpatine's true nature. But when he witnesses what he perceives as the Jedi's hypocrisy, his resolve begins to crumble. In Anakin's mind, if the Jedi truly believe in democracy, then Palpatine should face trial. Yet, When Mace Windu decides that Palpatine is too powerful to be left alive and moves to kill him, Anakin sees it as the Jedi breaking their own rules for the greater good. A double standard that echoes the very choices Anakin has been criticized for making. Windu's willingness to bend the rules for the collective while denying Anakin the same freedom for his personal interests drives Anakin further into conflict. Why should he be the only one to follow the rules when everyone else is willing to break them for their own purposes? His desire to save Padme outweighs all else, and when Windu attempts to strike down Palpatine, Anakin intervenes. He uses his power to stop Windu, believing that by saving Palpatine, he is also saving Padme. As Windu falls, Palpatine seizes the moment to reaffirm Anakin's actions as part of his destiny, twisting the narrative to solidify Anakin's turn to the dark side. But is this truly the destiny Anakin was meant to fulfill? He tried to earn the Council's trust, but they never fully accepted him. He followed Obi-Wan's guidance, only to face more loss and suffering. Now, with the door permanently shut on his chances of ever becoming a Jedi Master, all that remains is his love for Padme. And if saving her requires joining the dark side, then that is the path he will take. But Padme is not like Anakin. When she learns of the terrible deeds he has committed, she begs him to leave it all behind, to run away with her and find peace together. But Anakin, now consumed by the dark side, finds his hunger for power insatiable. He accuses Obi-Wan of lying to her, distorting reality to keep her by his side. His growing delusions of grandeur emerge as he believes his actions have brought peace to the Republic and that, together, he and Padme can overthrow the Chancellor and rule the galaxy. This marks Anakin's full descent into Stage 4, where he becomes Darth Vader. He fully embraces authoritarianism, now seeing control as a form of love that others fail to understand. His motives are entirely self-serving. He takes whatever he wants, by any means necessary, without a second thought. Yet Padme remains steadfast in her belief in goodness. She clings to the ideals of democracy and recoils from the dark path Anakin has chosen. Anakin, who once turned to the dark side to preserve his relationship with her, now finds himself spiraling out of control, losing the very thing he sought to protect. He is caught in a cruel paradox. He risks losing Padme whether she dies in childbirth or abandons him in horror at what he has become. These losses, compounded by the unresolved bitterness of never being trusted or respected, fuel the fire of hatred that now consumes him. Anakin, who once saw hope in everyone, now sees only betrayal and deception. His paranoia drives him to believe that Obi-Wan, his former mentor and the closest thing he ever had to a father, is trying to steal Padme from him. This twisted belief leads him to a fateful confrontation, where he tries to kill the very man who tried to guide him towards the light. In Obi-Wan, Anakin sees everything he has squandered, everything he can never become. Blinded by arrogance, he underestimates his opponent, despite Obi-Wan having the high ground. Anakin's belief in his own invincibility leads him to take a reckless leap of faith, one that ends in catastrophic failure. In a tragic instant, he is maimed, all his limbs severed, and left to burn in the fires of Mustafar. A punishment for his hubris, and a cruel twist of fate for the boy who once dreamed of bringing balance to the Force. As he lies there, engulfed in flames, the transformation is complete. Anakin Skywalker, the kind-hearted boy who believed in helping others, is gone. Replaced by the dark and twisted figure of Darth Vader. All that remains is a shell of the man he once was. Consumed by the very darkness he sought to control. His hair, his skin, his very identity as Anakin Skywalker, the young boy brimming with potential, all melt away into the fiery depths of Mustafar. As his body lies broken and burning, Palpatine arrives, finding what little remains of the once promising Jedi. Yet, for a boy who longed for ultimate freedom, who sought to break the chains of his past as a slave, his new mechanical body becomes a cruel irony. The cold metal encases his limbs like shackles, trapping him in a prison of his own making, his flesh scarred with the viciousness of his crimes. The machine that now breathes for him is a haunting reminder of the words he once spoke to Padme. That he couldn't breathe without her. He has lost everything he once valued in his quest for absolute control, only to find himself still a slave, this time to Palpatine. But in his rage, he is too blinded by hate to see it. Yet, was this truly Anakin's fate, as everyone in his life seemed to suggest? Was he always destined to serve the dark side, or was his fall preventable? What if Qui-Gon had survived, becoming the father figure Anakin so desperately needed, a mentor who truly believed in him? What if the Jedi Council had embraced his abilities instead of fearing them? Perhaps he would have had more faith in democracy, more trust in the Jedi way. And what if romantic love hadn't been forbidden? Could he have sought the Jedi's help instead of hiding his relationship within the shadows? If Obi-Wan had supported him in saving his mother after that first nightmare, would Anakin have ever found another reason to seek vengeance? These questions linger, for the complexity of morality lies in its uncertainty. If the righteous path always led to the best outcomes, the choice to do good would be simple. But sometimes, the righteous path demands personal sacrifice and leads to worse outcomes. Life doesn't always reward those who deserve it, nor does it punish those who don't. This is where each person's individual morality comes into play. What do you prioritize? The righteous method or the righteous result? There is darkness in all of us, just as there is light. And as masters of rationalization, we often blur the lines between right and wrong. But when faced with tough decisions, if we listen closely, we can feel an internal force guiding us. Whether that force is self-interest, our moral compass, or perhaps fate itself, pulling us towards a particular path. For Anakin Skywalker, the desire for righteous results, for saving those he loved, was powerful. But the methods he chose led to suffering for many others. He couldn't bear the feeling of being out of control, refusing to be a slave to the whims of the universe. Yet, being told he was born to fulfill a destiny meant that, in a way, he was never in control, no matter what he chose. If his experiences only revealed the flaws of the light side and the apparent benefits of the dark, then what was he expected to choose? So the real question becomes, did Anakin choose the dark side, or did the dark side choose him? Good night.